Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bullship podcast with Bill and Matt, where we're delving into everything you don't need to know about the supply chain. Bill, how are you doing this fine morning?
I'm doing great, Matt. We got a week of vacation coming up.
Only 1 week?
Yeah, a week and a day.
Okay.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I burned too much earlier, and it would have just been the 1 week. But then we realized that the kids also don't have the Monday and Tuesday off before New Year's, so they're off for a week and a half. So we're public school schedules.
There is nothing like those last 2 days of being a parent. We're just like, please just go back to school. I'm just so tired of you human beings.
Yep,
No
yep.
one tells you that, right? No one tells you.
December 31st, I'm going to be so eager to go back to work.
Bill, I have never appreciated more the very distinct difference in culture between where you live and where I live. For podcast listeners who are audio only, I don't know who you are, as for whatever reason Spotify refuses to believe that I am who I say that I am, and I have to keep making new profiles. Bill is currently in a quarter button down pullover, something like that. Looks very official in his very stately office with the ship behind him.
And
And
Matt looks like a slouch in a phone booth.
I'm in a hoodie and a camo hat because that's where I'm at today. Bill, do you have any idea what we're going to talk about today?
I have no idea, and you've left me in suspense. The last we spoke moments ago, you made it sound like you didn't know what we were going to talk about today. So I'm chomping at the bit to get going.
Okay, so I have a couple of ideas
All right,
about this. Will be probably our most nonsensical podcast, or
that's
we could talk about legitimate news, right? Like there's ILA strike, there's Canada Post strike. We could talk about legit things that are happening in the world of logistics, or we could go totally the other direction and
Matt.
not. It is
Matt,
your choice.
this podcast is called Bullshit for a reason. Why would we talk about stuff that people care about?
Fantastic. People do care about this subject. Thank you for confirming what we're going to talk about. I was kind of holding this one in reserve until April Fool's Day, but I will just have to figure something else out for that podcast. But I
Listeners,
want you
you can interpret that to mean that Matt couldn't come up with any other topics today.
didn't want to. Totally forgot we were even recording today.
It,
Scheduled a meeting during our actual podcast reporting time. Yes, all of
all of
those
the
things.
above. We'll cut you some slack because it's Q4 and we are all fried. It is late Q4.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
We're all fine. So, Bill, you are a fan of tabletop games. Is that fair to say?
that is a very fair statement. Yes.
Fantastical elements, I assume. You, I believe, sway more into the world of swords and shields than you do sci-fi, if I had to guess.
So, I mean, I guess we'll say that that's fair. I like a lot of sci-fi too. When it comes to tabletop board games, I don't care so much about the theme. When we're talking like role-playing games, RPGs, then yeah, I'm more like a Lord of the Rings guy than like a classic D&D. Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
yeah.
So, have you heard about the grim darkness of the 40,000th millennium?
I have not.
Bill, you are in for a treat today, and for those listeners who know exactly where I'm going with this, you are also in for a treat. Bill, I'm going to talk to you about Warhammer 40K.
Heard of it?
You've heard of it, okay?
Yeah. Who
And I
hasn't
want
looked
to
at
talk to
it?
you about how important and integral logistics is in that world.
Awesome.
You're
I love it.
in for a treat.
Though I don't really understand yet, at least. Maybe this is coming, but the tie into April Fool's Day, I'm wondering where that comes into now.
It was going to be, no, I will not give away what I'm going to do on April Fool's Day. So, in the grim darkness of the 40,000th millennia, there is no peace. There is only war.
And hammers? War hammers?
There are there are a lot of hammers, right? If you can get your hands on one, and I'm talking like big, meaty hammers. So you've heard of the world of Warhammer 40K.
Yeah.
There are no good people. There's no good humans. But in this far-flung universe, the Emperor of Mankind, the God Emperor of Mankind, is a skeleton sitting on a golden throne. He has been sitting on said throne for 10,000 years, since the 30,000th millennia, where he wages a war in the psychic immaterium to keep humanity safe, humankind specifically. He left behind, an imperium that is galaxy spanning. They have well, in the consuming 10,000 years, they've been facing, multiple problems, various alien races that are trying to overthrow them and kill them. Um, but one of the major factions that they are fighting against is a faction called Chaos, as you would think.
Our listeners as well as I are wondering when we get to the logistics part of it. But the story you paint a great picture. It's a wonderful story so far.
It's not me. It is a British company that makes this game. The Emperor of Mankind is millennia old. He is a perpetual.
The skeleton on the golden throne.
Yes, he, the greatest of all men, genetically engineered 20 sons.
Also skeletons?
No.
Fresh blood.
They are, some might say, supreme beings. Who knows? Gods in mortal flesh. The greatest of these, they're called the Primarchs. The greatest of these Primarchs is a man by the name of Roboute Gulliman. And he is the logistician. He is the greatest of them all.
Awesome. Okay.
So great.
I'm with you now. I thought that's where it was going. I'm with you now. Continue.
Okay. So let me kind of back up and give you the story of the Primarchs. So the Primarchs are the generals that the God Emperor created, right? He calls them his sons. There are 20. They each have their own little oddities about them. They're based off of different cultures around the world. There's one who's based off of like a British sword-wielding knight. There's another one who's based off of like Viking pillagers. There are many. The best one of them is the logistician, who's based off of like an ancient Roman like archetype. He is Roboute Gulliman. Some people call him Roboute Gulliman. It is what it is.
I'll go with that because I don't even understand what you called him. You've said it twice, and I did not understand it both times.
Roboute Gulliman.
I'm not going to remember that. Roboute Gulliman. Got it.
Roboute Gulliman.
Thank you.
He leads a faction called the Ultramarines. They are Space Marines. Like, Space Marines are a faction. Ultramarines are a sub-faction of the larger group. They wear blue armor. They walk around in power armor. They are, I think, 8 foot tall demi-humans. They were born as, humans and then received genetic implants that made them something much, much more. And they walk around battlefields in all blue armor, looking like Smurfs, killing heretics and Xenos. It's fantastic.
That is a Smurf show that I wish they had made.
Right. He has a follower, well, not a follower. One of Gilliman's sons is the leader, kind of the demi-human leader of the Ultramarines. His name is Marnius Calgar, and people refer to him almost exclusively as Papa Smurf.
Awesome.
It's fantastic. Now, what makes the Ultramarines great is that Roboute Gulliman is a logistician. He does that all the time. And in a world where the primary opposition force is chaos, it makes him a god among humanity. Because he's like, "Oh, I know how to move things around this galaxy. I know how to handle supplies and make warehouses and feed humans and space marines. And so now I will just impose my will upon you." And he's the best. I love all of the lore around Roboute Gulliman.
I'm enjoying this too, and I love you mentioned that Roboute Gulliman is modeled after a Roman, which
yes.
I love Roman history. I can't remember any of it, so don't ask me. Yeah, but I listen to Dan Carlin all the time. He's amazing. A much better podcaster than we are. It must be said.
I wouldn't say much better. We're pretty good.
we're okay,
We're
fine.
getting
We're close. But we're not Dan Carlin level.
we're
Let's
not.
just say that. But
We're also not making a 3 hour long podcast about like an 8 episode, 3 hours long each podcast about history.
maybe we
Let's
should
be
ask ourselves, why aren't we doing that?
we
I'm
could.
sure I'm sure that's what our listeners really want.
We
And
could.
anyway, but we digress. Where I was going with this is that, I mean, what you've just described, like the Romans, one of the reasons that they conquered the known world at the time was because they were great logisticians, right? And their
Yes.
supply chains were amazing, and they could
Yes.
supply massive armies better than anybody else could. And so they could just wear people down because
Yes.
they knew how to do this. So that's I wanted to throw that in
In,
there because that's always fun. And I want to one day I want to find a reason to talk about Roman Empire on this podcast.
listen,
This was it, except that I can't remember any of the history. So we're going to do it again sometime.
whenever you want to talk about the Roman roads, the Pax Romana, I'm down for it.
Sweet.
Right. And to quote the reason again to just dovetail off of what you were saying about why the Romans were great, or one of the reasons kind of exemplifying how they were great from a man that you have mentioned just now, Dan Carlin. The Romans were one of the few cultures ever who could like take a punch and still keep swinging. Right. Most ancient cultures, especially, if you hit them hard enough, they went down and collapsed entirely. Not so with the Romans
Yep. True. True.
because of logistics.
So, but now I want to know back to Warhammer because that is what we're
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
Are we talking? So that you just described a whole lot of lore. Is this like storybook or lore, or is this actual part of the game? Because I've not played the game at all, and I'm hoping you say it's part of the game because that sounds and this sounds crazy, but like a logistician role in a war game with minis, that sounds fun.
Oh, I know, Bill. I knew I was going to hook you, and so I'm excited. So, is the lore part of the game? Yes, it is. They make the lore to sell the tabletop,
Hmm.
and players of the tabletop learn to love the lore. Like, Bill, let me tell you, people get real, real deep. Like, you choose your faction, and like that's it. Hell or high water. That's who I'm with. I don't care if my Primarch died many years ago. They're whatever. That's who you are fundamentally. There are many races. Well, I guess not many because the humans during the time of the Great Crusade, when the Emperor of Mankind was still alive and had all 20 of his Primarch sons as his generals over the 20 Space Marine legions, who have since been broken down into chapters containing 1,000 Space Marines apiece. I'm getting too far into this. Um,
Yes, you are.
right, the Great Crusade, they wiped out a great many alien species just because they could. And so there's only a few that are sort of left in the rest of the cosmos. Who are they? There is the Necrons, who are space Egyptian robots. There are oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. What are they? There's like space elves.
Cool.
Bad. There's good space elves, bad space elves. There are a new race called the Tau who are growing in. They are basically cows, but they are super advanced cows with giant mecha battle fighters. They're growing in the rest of the world. They're relatively new on the scene, but they are also good because they also know how to do logistics and supply chain.
Interesting. So now I want to ask you. I assume that you play Warhammer.
I do not, as a
You
matter
do
of fact.
not. Okay.
No, because I don't have the kind of money and time that
Yeah.
is required of someone to like fully invest into Warhammer 40K.
That's fair. The reason I ask is because I actually enjoy games that have this kind of like supply chain, supply demand element to them, and so I wanted to hear about the actual game mechanics that create that, which I guess you can't talk about.
I don't.
But I can recommend some games that do this very well.
If you're about to tell me about that World War II like game that requires like a week and a
No,
half to play,
no. Oh no.
okay.
No. This
I
is this is
do like the mechanic of what is it, Battle for Africa, that the
uh,
Italians require more water per turn because they're making pasta. That is the funniest. That is the funniest game mechanic.
I've not heard. That's great.
I thought you made that.
I've not heard of that one. No,
Okay.
no. No. So one I was going to throw out there is Power Grid, which is I don't know if are you familiar with it. This is a nice like middleweight. You can get on the table and play in like an hour plus.
Okay.
It takes a little learning, but it's not super hard. It's not for like a beginner gamer, but it's not for you're not going to take a week and a half to play it. But what's really fun about it is that it creates this whole marketplace. You're trying to build power plants and connect cities to build up the best power grid so that you can earn the most money. And to do that, you have to buy power plants. So and those have capacity. You have to buy and so there's a market for power plants. There's a market for the materials that you use to create the power. So there are different power plants. There's coal power plants, gas. There's garbage fueled power plants. There's nuclear. There's solar, which doesn't require materials, solar and wind. So there's these different market dynamics, and it's all about like managing the supply and demand, because you also have to then go and buy out cities so that you're allowed to connect to them and power them. And so it's all about managing your capacity and balancing the supply and like managing the supply and the demand of the available resources to fire your power plants. It is a fun game, and it is very much a like I play it very well actually because I've been in supply chain for so long. I apply my supply chain knowledge to this game and it works.
It's called Power Grid.
Power Grid. It's very well known actually. It's been around for a while.
Okay, I'm now looking up. I want to confirm for you and everyone that might be watching. This is what we're talking about. This
That's
game.
it. That's the one.
It's got a guy looks like a scientist. It's green kind of background.
Yeah.
He's fiddling with a dial or a knob.
The cover art is lame. Yeah, the cover art is lame. Don't worry about that. The game is really good.
I like it, Bill.
Okay,
I like the cover.
I think it's lame.
I think you're lame, Bill. Okay, so
I know that.
I talking about games. We've moved on from Roboute Gulliman. We will talk about him later. Don't you worry. I love playing games, but I am a terrible person to play games against. I get way too into it, and I want to win. Such like there are known games, 3 specifically that no one will play with me. Monopoly, of course.
Lots of reasons not
Risk.
to play Monopoly. Sorry, go on.
Monopoly, Risk, and the Game of Life. Because specifically in the Game of Life, I will cheat. Like 100%, I will cheat in the Game of Life. And I was growing up. This is way back. We were like, it's not even supply chain related.
Dear listeners, you can shut the podcast off if you wanted to hear more about distribution, logistics, supply chain. I think we're done with that now. So I think that ends that portion of the podcast. We're now just bullshipping. Yes, stick with us if you want to hear about Matt's childhood playing.
I'm
Like
going to
cheating.
give everyone the secret to success in the Game of Life is simply to cheat, right? Period. So when my neighbors and I would play the Game of Life, I was the only one who owned the board game. And so because I owned the board game, I could do whatever I wanted to with it. And so a friend of mine, another neighbor, and we devised the scheme to never lose the game ever. And that was simply to slightly dent the tips of the cards that we wanted to pull, right? You know how
Yep.
you when you start the game, you pull a house, you pull a job, you pull
Yep.
a salary,
Yep.
and we would always intentionally dent the like second and third best cards because we were going to play each other. So when you in the old one, the salary went up to 100K, and there was 190, 80, I think 75, whatever down. We dented the tips of the $90,000 and $80,000 cards, knowing full well that whenever there's that time where you can switch cards to player, everyone else will be incentivized to switch with the $100,000 one and not the $90,000 and $80,000 ones. So there we would go. We would always pull the right cards simply by cheating. It was fantastic. And
Very
then, like decades later, Bill, I was an adult. I was married. I had children, and I like people like my neighbors and I obviously were still good friends. And they were like, "Wow, y'all always won that game. It's kind of amazing." And we like laughed to ourselves like, "Oh, it's because we were cheating." Like no one ever caught on that. Like what? Like Oh yeah, we had totally stacked it in our own favor, and we had just
I,
lied to everyone.
I'm actually glad that that's where the story went, because as you were talking about years later, adult with children, I thought you were going to say that now you're teaching your kids to cheat, or you were cheating when you play against your kids. Okay, good. Glad to hear that.
Now, Bill, my children are still young. They are not old enough to play the game of life yet. But when they are,
You will teach them how to cheat.
no, I will just cheat and they will learn, like, they'll have to just get good, Bill. Like, I'm not going to hand them the game. The real game of life does not hand you anything. Okay? You have to fight for every piece of it. And I will teach them that lesson.
Dear listener, you have had parenting lessons in this episode. You've had Warhammer lore. You've gotten a board game recommendation. We kind of talked about logistics a little bit.
Should we plug our sponsors?
We should.
Do you have a sponsor?
You know the answer to that as well as I do, Matt. Come on. It's coming, though. I promise. I swear. Nobody's around right now. Like January. I swear, in January, it will happen.
So, Bill, as we've mentioned, so it's time to plug our sponsors now. Our sponsor being Amplifier, the best of all 3PLs. Well, I'll say arguably the best of all 3PLs. I personally think so. That's who I am doing business with myself. Well, I'm pulling up, as you can tell here, my website, lowbudgetlogistics.com. I am not a sponsor of this podcast. We're sponsored by Amplifier. But I need to buy something to, like, test out a process. So I now have shirts that I'm using to fulfill through Amplifier's on-demand printing. So I have a shirt in my cart with the fancy Low Budget Logistics logo. I will now be checking out here live in real time because I want to, come on now, shipping address, there we go. I want to give everyone the full experience of fulfillment end to end. So Amplifier has seamlessly integrated with my Squarespace account. Again, not a sponsor, although if they want to throw out some money, I will happily take it. And we will be fulfilling here live. I've let my good friend and the CEO of the company know that I will be doing this, and so he should expect to. I should expect top-notch service from him. Although everyone should expect top-notch service.
Everyone gets top-notch service from Amplifier. We all know that.
Sorry, give me a second to. Do you have anything to pad this with?
Well, yeah, because actually the last time we spoke, you did point out that I have not bought one of your low budget logistics shirts yet, and I was going to mention that I still have not done so, but that's
I know you haven't.
it's mainly because we're kind of recording back to back, at least relative to the way that we normally record. I think it's been a week since we recorded, so things take longer for me. So it will happen, I swear. One day I will get us a sponsor and I will buy a shirt from you.
Now, to be fair to you, I had not set up the shipping options.
Oh.
So you couldn't buy one from me until like yesterday.
Oh, so I shouldn't have even admitted that.
But you did, Bill.
I did. It's too late.
You did.
It's too late. Yep.
There we go. All right. Sorry. It's taking me too long. I'm talking instead of typing
This is riveting podcasting, Matt. Like, this is Dan Carlin level podcasting.
All right. We'll just assume that I have done the checkout in some matter of time based off of Amplifier's normal fulfillment timelines and processes. I will be getting a Low Budget Logistics t-shirt,
which you will wear at the next session, right?
If it comes in time, Bill.
It's Amplifier. They're on top of it. Of course it will.
They are on top of it. Anyways, there you go, Bill. That's our like plug for them today. What would you like to talk about now as I complete my order?
What am I going to talk about? Well, I mean, Matt, we're done. Like, people don't want to listen to us anymore. It's 26 minutes into this podcast, and I'm sure we're going to edit a little bit. But
you made a comment about Monopoly, and I want to go back to that.
Okay, fine. We can address the elephant in the room, which is that Monopoly is a lame game. Let's just be real.
No, it is not, Bill. It is, I think, the pinnacle of games. I love Monopoly.
It's just rolling the dice and going around until you buy up all the stuff, and whoever gets the most, like, there's so much luck involved. So much luck.
No, Bill, no. You're not playing Monopoly right if you think that luck is involved.
It also just takes forever. It's boring. No, there's such better games. No, there's so many better games.
Get No, Bill. Okay, I learned again. This is the reason why no one plays Monopoly with me, because I like to wheel and deal. I like to see, like, get the absolute best bargain for my properties. So I have heard that if you play Monopoly based on how the rules themselves are written, it is actually a quick game, because intentionally it's like take money off the board. But people do things like add $500 into the free parking.
Yeah, we don't. I
Or
don't do that. We don't do that anymore. Granted.
okay,
Yeah.
I always do. It makes the game more fun. But the other rule that no one really ever plays is that whenever you land on a property and you don't buy it, then it immediately goes up for auction. So like,
Oh, I didn't know that one.
yeah, it's in the rules. How do you
Okay.
read the
All
rules?
right. All right. Fine. It's
For
been years
someone,
since I played Monopoly. I will. I will. I'm not going to commit to this because it's probably not going to happen. But in theory, I would like to try it again. Rules as written.
okay. So right in for someone who seems like such a rule follower, Bill, I'm surprised that you haven't read that rule. But we'll move along from that. But anyways, it makes the game much faster. Like the properties are gone in the course of like 2-3 turns, and so
All
then
right.
it just becomes like putting
Not,
the
not only
screws.
not only are they gone, but if they go up for auction, you are getting them for much less than the face value. There you go. Okay.
There you
There you
go.
go.
And I'm not sure about the like specifics around the rule of like, can you not buy the property and then also bid in the auction? I'm not sure if that's a thing, because that would be like,
That sounds game breaking to me, but yeah.
yeah. But anyways, it's a fast game if you play it right. I don't like to play it that way. I like to play the way of like, hey, if I give you this property, or you buy it from me, how much are you willing to give me on the side? How many turns do I get free parking like on your property? That's how I play this game, Bill.
Yeah, I've played that way too, and it just takes forever.
That's what makes it fun. Like the best part about Monopoly, I will grant you, is it is all at the end, where there's one person who's got all the money and most of the properties on the board, and everyone is just hoping like, please let me land on the jail tile so that I can go to jail for 3 turns and not have to spend money. I'll just like keep kicking the can on the road.
But that's
I
not good
love it
because
when it gets.
by then you know who's won. You're just like playing it out.
It's the best. It's the best, Bill. I
No,
love it so much.
no. We have to agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah, making someone like mortgage their properties, oh, the best. It's such a great feeling. Superiority when you win the game. It's great. You, like really just turn the screws to your friends and your family. It's a great game. They learn about you. Bill is learning a lot about me today. I
Too
have
much. Too much.
Bill. You didn't know this. I had a white monster before we started filming, so I'm real amped up.
I always assume you're caffeinated, Matt. You are always caffeinated with
I'm
something.
always caffeinated because I can't not be. I would get a headache otherwise. But I'm very caffeinated today. I still haven't finished my order. Is there anything else you want to talk about, Bill? Any games that you're going to play over this holiday period with your friends and family?
What are we going to play? I'm looking at my game shelf right now because I'm sure we'll play some. I mean, chances are with the kids, what have we been playing lately? Well, we definitely play Uno a lot. That's great with the kids. That's really good one with the kids. Yeah.
Do you play Uno No Mercy?
No, don't know that one. But I will plug actually a game that my friends make at Restoration Games called Dinosaur Tea Party, and that is fantastic with children. It is
Okay.
like Guess Who without the racism.
All
It's
right.
great. The illustrations are great. The kids love it. It's super fun. And then New Year's Eve we're gonna have a board game night with a bunch of friends. All bets are off. I have no idea what we're gonna play.
Settlers of Catan.
No, probably not. Oh, possibly, but yeah, we got lots of choices.
All right. Well, Bill, I have just completed my order. It will be fulfilled through Amazon or through Amplifier, not Amazon.
Definitely not
No,
Amazon.
no, through Amplifier, and I will hopefully wear it for the next recording. I'll let my friend know. I'm interested to hear about your board game night when we film again in the new year, Bill.
Well, we will. That can be one of our topics. Yes. I guess we're just done talking about supply chain and operations here, right? We'll just talk about
Bill,
bullshit.
there are some things that we're like. January is going to hold a lot of things that we can talk about in the new year. It's just I feel like we're all sort of exhausted at this point with
All right. All
it
right.
all.
So we'll talk about board games and whatever crap happens in January.
I mean, I have only like lightly scratched the surface, not even scratched, I would say brushed the surface of the world of Warhammer 40K and the glory that is the Ultramarines and Roboute Gulliman, their Primarch.
And I'm sure that is exactly why our listeners keep coming back for more. If they
Bill,
are, I have no idea if they are. If they are,
Bill,
actually, it makes no sense to me at all. But maybe
Bill,
this is the one that keeps them coming back.
Warhammer fans, ravenous, ravenous. Let me tell you that. Like, there are so many sub factions and everything. Like,
But Matt, what is the Venn diagram of Warhammer fans and people who listen to supply chain related podcasts?
Bill,
I'd be willing to bet that those are two separate circles.
you have not posted on LinkedIn today,
No, I have not.
and I'm going to challenge you to ask that question today and see what answers you get.
All right.
Okay, do that, and then you'll get your answer.
All right, fine.
Okay,
Consider it done.
and then when we do this again, we're gonna have to add a small segment at the very end answering that question once you've posted it. Before I post this episode.
Done.
Get ready. Okay.
All right.
All right. Bill, thank you so much for
It's been great
bullshipping.
bullshipping with you as always.
I'm excited. We're gonna
Have a great holiday. Have a great holiday, and we'll bullship again soon.
in the new year. Bye, Bill.